something we won't hear a ton of this season. I know that's kind of a low blow. And we're not going to talk Jets without our former Jet, Damien Woody, who also joins us. And Damien, you'll be jumping in throughout this discussion. But let's start with Bill Polian's comments. And there has been talk of tanking. Is this a reality in the NFL?
You know, Susie, I wouldn't doubt that there are people who believe that they would like to get into position to address the one position that you may entertain this kind of philosophy in order to address, and that being quarterback. And obviously there's a lot of early talk already that this year's quarterback class, just like every other quarterback class every once in a while, is this the latest and greatest that we have to get in position to draft one of these guys who are coming into the draft this year. But I would caution everyone to kind of pump the brakes. You hope that isn't the case here. The timing of some of these moves obviously is just awful. Yeah. It's awful from an optics standpoint. It's awful from a reality standpoint, because this isn't the way you really want to do business. So I'll tell you this, whenever players have choices, I know it's about the money in the NFL, I get it. But if players have choices, all things being equal, especially veteran free agents going into a second contract, when you see people do things like this, these are the kind of things that resonate with players, and they never forget.
When there's smoke, there's fire. For a player in the locker room, you hear noise like that of tanking. What are you thinking?
Well, obviously, you're looking around and you're seeing the moves yourself. A lot of these players are intelligent and they understand the business of football. And I do think some of these moves make business sense. I think some of these moves have actually made them better in certain positions, like safety with Calvin Pryor leaving, with having Marcus May and Jamal Adams. Obviously, I think bringing in Demario Davis is an upgrade over losing David Harris now. And so if you look at some of those things, they make sense. But if you're in this locker room and you keep seeing veteran after veteran go, you're looking at a team that's not building to win this year. And I think that would be more important to me, whether you call it tanking to get a quarterback or however they're making these moves, however you feel about them. You don't think this team is putting you in the best position to be successful this year. And as we know, the NFL is day to day, not even year to year. And you want to be somewhere where they're doing business the correct way. And the Jets don't seem to be.
Let's bring Damien in, our former Jet. Damien, how does this all add up for you?
Well, Susan, make no mistake about it. The tank is rolling full steam ahead in Florham Park. I can tell you that. Listen, I'm actually in favor of this whole idea of tanking, because Lewis alluded to it from the beginning. You need a quarterback in the National Football League to have any chance of winning the Super Bowl. The Jets for years have toed the line of trying to be competitive and rebuild at the same time. In 2013, they did a watered-down version of what's going on now. And John Idzik was fired 2 years later. So for me, I have a couple questions. Number one, is Woody Johnson, is he going to be patient enough to allow something like this to happen? Because the Jets aren't going, they're not going to be competitive probably for another 2 or 3 years. They're playing all young guys, and they want to see what those young guys can do. Number two, why should Josh McCown even play? I mean, listen, Christian Hackenberg had a redshirt year last year. You need to see if the guy can play. If he's not ready to play now with a redshirt year, then what the hell did you draft him for in the second round last year?
A lot of emotion.
So look, for me, I see a coach that looks like he's in a lame duck situation in Todd Bowles with the front office. They're not married together. We got the front office and the owner looking towards the future, but Todd Bowles is like, wait a minute. I need to win now. If you're not giving me any veterans or any players to try to win, there's no way in the world I'm going to survive after the season. So, to me, the premise is correct as far as tanking and trying to get a quarterback, but it's just a mess. It's a mess.
What I love about what Damien's saying is basically we have moves that should have happened a few months before March 6th, not June 6th, and we have Damien moving up the timeline on Christian Hackenberg, which was something I wasn't expecting. I thought we'd get that in September or October, but now we're moving that up.
But how would you even judge him? How would you judge a young quarterback? Or how would you even judge a head coach when your roster is rebuilding and there's unproven receivers, a lot of youth?
No, maybe you're not. Maybe you've already judged them.
Right.
Maybe the writing's already on the wall. I mean, we know this, right? I mean, it's kind of like you don't want to say it, but it's already playing itself out, meaning this is probably something that's just going to end when this season is over. They're already looking forward to 2018, and that's the reality of it. Unfortunately, you know, there's certain teams that continuously find themselves in this kind of vicious cycle. Because you know what? Let me say this, too, about this whole tanking thing to get a quarterback. What's interesting is, you know, coaches, front office guys usually have about a 3-year life cycle, maybe 4, maybe less than that. A young quarterback comes into a situation like this where a team has been torn down.
Still
and
going to take time.
Exactly. So you're going to give the next regime time?
Yep.
Or is it constant? This is how you get caught in that kind of spiral where it's just always 2-3 years, blow it up, 2-3 years, blow it up. It's unfortunate. It really is.
By the way, for the record, Mike Maccagnan insists he's heard all the tanking stuff, too. He says this is not the focus, that he does believe that the roster can be competitive and can improve.
Well, listen, they've had a chance to acquire a lot of different players, but it's also hard to imagine that on June 6th that this is something that Todd Bowles would want to do.
Yeah. There's no look. They should have done this a couple months ago.
Okay,
and they brought in some good young players.
Yeah.
They really have brought in some good young players here. It's the timing of how they're doing it. How you do business counts. Mm-hmm. And when you forget that, you do it at your own risk here, because it's going to come back around. There's going to be veterans who say, I have choices. No, thank you. I don't want to come be a part of that right now. It's just going to happen.
By the way, to clean up the Eric Decker situation, they have released David Harris, but Eric Decker, they're not planning to release him today. Apparently there's some type of trade market, because I think that they still hope and believe that they'll be able to work out some type of deal for Eric Decker, who doesn't look like he's going to be released today.
Damian, want to put a bow on this?
Yeah, listen, anybody who watched the press conference yesterday of Todd Bowles clearly can see that he's not vibing with this whole, this rebuild thing. David Harris, who he was counting on to be one of the leaders on the defense, he was basically like, you got to talk to the people upstairs. Talk to the people upstairs. He missed a lot of company lines, but this is not jiving with him, I can tell you that.
All right, and Damian, you brought up their owner, Woody Johnson, so we'll go out on this. And this is what he said about the culture and the decisions they're making. If you want to go to the promised land, you have to go in a certain direction. I think this is a direction we've never tried in the 17 years I've been associated with the Jets. We've never gone this way. Well, we'll see if it works. All right, our thanks.